By now you should have it so that when you click on your 5 buttons here, it jumps to the 5 different locations in this movie clip. And I've got mine working with just my New York City and location 1 currently. So it just jumps between the two of those. If I take a look at my code, here's where I've invoked that function, the go to car label. Now what I'm going to do is copy that, because I'm going to go inside the car and actually put some new code in here. If I go to my actions layer in there, right now it should just have a stop, and it says put your other code there. And of course we want to make sure we're on the actions layer in that file. And I'm going to go ahead and paste that code in, because pretty much it has exactly what I need, which is the New York City button or location 1 button, and those are the same names for the buttons that exist on this timeline. And the difference though is that we're not going to be going inside the car animation anymore, so we can remove that part when we invoke the new functions. If I try and run it though, I should get an error. And the error says that the variable go to car label is not defined. The reason why is because this particular function, go to car label, is existing on the main timeline, and currently we're trying to run this function from an external timeline, or rather an internal timeline. So we need to target the main timeline. As with any targeting, we have 2 ways to do it. We can either do root.goToCarLabel, or we can also do this.parent. So we can either use absolute targeting or relative targeting to target the function on the main timeline, and then to run those functions with new information. And that does indeed work. If I go to New York City, location 1, it works from the main timeline, or it works from the internal timeline. Now this is pretty cool, but we're going to do something that's even cooler. I'm going to go back to the main scene, go to that actions layer, and I'm going to actually remove this code by cutting it, and we're going to place that code in an external file. So let's do File, New, and I'm going to do a new Actionscript file. I'm going to paste that code, and I'm going to copy the go to car label, because I'm going to use that to name my code. So I'll do File, Save As, and let's save it in the same folder with your tutorial, and I'm going to call it gotocarlabel.as. Now I can close that, and if I look in the folder, you'll see that I do have the gotocarlabel.as file in there. Now I can link that to my Actionscript just by including that external file. Control V, gotocarlabel.as, and then I'll just go down a line or so, and be aware that I do not want to put my semicolon. It does not have a semicolon when you use the include statement. So I'm going to copy that line because I'm going to need it here in a minute, but let's just make sure that it works here on the main timeline. And it does indeed, works great. And it even works in the internal timeline, because what I've done is I've included that on the main timeline, which basically just places that external code here on the main from the other place. Now what I could do is, if I wanted to, I could come in here and go ahead and include that code again, and then get rid of this targeting, because now I would be including that go to car label as it was code actually on this timeline. And so either way that you do it doesn't really matter, but what we have done at least is we have included an external file for our code, which means that we can create a library of code that sits outside of Flash and include those functions when we need them, and just worry about invoking them inside the Flash file. And that's something that kind of goes towards the object-oriented coding from the standpoint of having external code which runs your functions. So anyway, that should really conclude this tutorial. Make sure that you have all the different buttons working and that they jumped all the different locations, and save your work when you're done. And I think that's it for this. Thanks.